like to say it's good to be here this morning. As I got to studying this book, I got to thinking, there's so many times there's things in here that will step on people's toes if they know what they're doing isn't right. And I got to thinking that, I'm not nowhere near close as intelligent in the Bible like Dad, Tim, Bob, Steve, Larry. But we've got some really smart Sunday school teachers, and so if y'all can help me out if I do something, try to give y'all what God gave me, and it's not right, let me know, because I got to thinking last night. We all have opinions about things. We got political views. I really got to thinking. There's so many times we got different beliefs on politicals, and as others. And but there's one thing I really got to thinking is if it comes from the Bible, it can't be wrong, and nobody can change what it says. Everybody tries all the time and everything. I'm not sure exactly why God gave me this, because most of us up here are adults, but this is where I got stuck on. I couldn't get nowhere else, so we're going to be in Ephesians chapter 6. And verse number 1, it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment, with promise." Growing up, God couldn't give me no more better parents than what I've got. I was very blessed. Most of y'all know my wife. She, growing up, her mom and dad got divorced, and it took a toll on her for the longest time. And she tells me all the time, she said, "You had the perfect life." It's not that nobody's perfect, but like I said, raising me up, I couldn't have had any better parents than what I got, raising me up. When I done something wrong, they was there to correct me. When I was hurt, they was there to help me, and you can ask them. They might give you a different opinion, but I don't think I gave them too much trouble as a child. I just tried to do what I was told, and there was, like I said, many times I got corrected. If I was back there while the preacher was up preaching or whatever, and I was acting up, I got took outside and got corrected for it. If we was out somewhere, I got corrected for it, and but it made me who I am today. There's so many kids out there, people I work around that's got kids, and I think the only time they ever step foot in the church is when they go to a funeral or something. And if y'all have heard the testimony of Dad and stuff, he wasn't always in church, but I always had, Mom and Papa and them to bring us. But I remember one time Mom couldn't make it, and I wanted to come to church, and Dad brought me, and I sat back there, and I was lost. And I remember sitting back there, and I had a vision for some reason pop up that I was in Walmart, and I was lost, and I couldn't find my way out. And I just sat back there and blanked out that whole time. And, that's when I was under conviction until I finally got saved. But I'm thankful, like I said, I've got parents that are in church that raised me up in church, because I could be out there in the world, struggling, with what I see a lot of people going on with, like I said before, and Tim preached on it the other night. And like I said, some of you might think, well, boy, what are you talking about with you? But like I said, from what I try to stay as much out of trouble. I don't think I was very much in the principal's office growing up. And as I was at home, when they would ask me to do something, I would try my best to do it and get out and help them in the yard and stuff. But so many times you see kids today, they get abused and everything, and it never was like that. Like I was saying, I got corrected, but I was loved as I was getting corrected. It wasn't no dangerous situations, nothing like that. But what I'm trying to get at is I was raised right up in the Lord, and it says, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of your heart, and as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasures, but as servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. You know, so many times I see it today, people will do things to help others, and they want to be seen. They want to be known for it. You know, my Papa Kaiser was one of the best ones that I knew that would do this, but he would do things for somebody, but he didn't want it known. He just, you know, he wanted to do and help with people, but he didn't want to be that person that just ran out and said, look what I did, look what I did. You know, and he always said that if he could help someone, that he wanted to do it, but he wasn't one of the ones that want to be known for it. And I got some people today that I know and work around. They would do something for somebody, but they wanted to be known for it. They wanted to go and take credit for it. But you know, there's everything that we do today we couldn't do without God. And if I'm going to give anybody credit for doing anything, I'm going to give it to God this morning, because I wouldn't be able to stand up here without Him and try to get through this. I'd be everywhere. But verse number 7, it said, with goodwill doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond for free. And ye masters do the same things unto them, forbearing, threatening, knowing that your master also in heaven, neither is there respect for persons with him. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord in the power of his might. You know, like I was saying, there's so much. We're going to get into that here in a minute, but there's so much wickedness out in this world, you know, and we got to stay strong with God. Like I said, so many times in the school system, and I'm not trying to down the schools or anything, but there's a lot of stuff. Me and a boy had a work over Friday, and where we was at, we was having to get a locker room fixed to get the heat back on because a visiting team was coming in there. And just being around and hearing what those boys said and talked about, you know, it was mind-blowing to me from who that was coming from, younger kids, and trying to keep my mind away from it and not get caught up in what they were saying and stuff. But, you know, it's just, there's so much stuff that you hear out in this world and how much people don't want to believe. And, you know, I try, if you want to talk to me about it, I'll talk to you. I was like, but I'm not going to push you into it, because I feel like sometimes you could drive somebody away. And so I just try to let my light shine. And, you know, if we have a good, of course, every day being in the Lord's house, good service, but, you know, we get one of those ones, and I'll go to work and maybe sometimes rewatch it on my phone and stuff like that. And I try to show how we get to worship God and everything. And you know, a lot of times they say, well, you're a church goer, and you know, that makes me proud that people know, which going to church don't always mean everything. You know, you gotta be saved before you can even get into heaven. I could come to church all my life, but if I wasn't saved, then hell would be my home if I died before then. But has anybody got anything? And trying to correct, but like Dad was saying, this day and time, it's like they're scared to do anything, and but I'm just, like I said, I'm just glad that I was raised the way I was raised, and I'm pretty certain I deserved every whooping that I got, but I'm just thankful that I was raised up the way that I was brought up, and by no means am I perfect, but I'm just glad that there's a lot of worldly things that I could have got caught up in, and I might not have been here today. You know, that so many things of this world that's, like I said, we're about to get to, that's wickedness. I remember when I was playing football, there was a lot of boys. One of them took me to school and everything, and he was a senior, and they would, after a football game, they would say that they're going to this one boy's house. Well, I knew what every single one of these boys done, and they always asked, well, come on. And I knew what they was doing, and I said, no, I'm not going to be around it. And, you know, I always got asked, why wouldn't I go? But I knew what they would have at that place, and I didn't want to. I was raised to stay away from things of that, and, you know, I'm glad, because, like I said, there's a lot of kids that's out here, well, I say kids, but some young adults and stuff, you hear a lot of times these days, you know, drunk driving and getting hooked on all this other stuff, and, you know, it's crazy to see what this world, they get caught up in, and the dangers of it, and but like I said, I'm just glad that I had parents to raise me the way that they had brought me up in church and knew from right from wrong. And does anybody have anything else? Exactly. exactly. You know, and as an adult, well, now and then, when I do, like you're saying, if you're saved and you do something wrong these days, as older we get, you know, God is still the Heavenly Father, and Mom and Dad ain't gonna be there every day, and you know, there's so many things that I could do. Like I said, I'm nowhere near perfect, but there's so many things that you could do out in the world, and you think nobody sees, well, God sees, and then you could get punishments, like you said, we get our whippings from Him, I guess you'd say, as we're here and going through life, and but you know, I always believe in asking for forgiveness, but you know, it's don't. And as saying that, don't go out here and do it and be like, oh, I'll do it and then ask for forgiveness. That's not what I'm saying. Is a lot of times you hear people come and ask for forgiveness, but then they go and do it right back again. Well, did you really ask for forgiveness in the first place? You know, there's so many times that I would be doing something or saying something and be like, oh, forgive me, God, and whatever, and then I go right back out and do it. But you know, I get my punishment later on, and you may not know what the punishment is until. But like, I appreciate this morning. But it says in verse number 11, put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the evil. And like I was saying, you know, so many times, I guess, in this way you could look, well, put it this way. So our military and police and all the ones that special for all these, I guess, that have to go and face dangers of the world, you know, they have an armor plate to stop certain rounds of artillery and or calibers of ammunition and stuff to try to protect them. So many times when we're out, or I've ran into people before while I've been out, and they start telling me God ain't real and stuff and going on. Well, you can pretty much say they're firing ammunition at me. Well, if I was anywhere as smart as some of our Sunday school teachers and dad and people that can know the Bible, like I said, my grandparents, they every night they could read from one end to the other, and however many times it took them. But I forgot how many times they ended up reading through the Bible before they passed away. But they was very, very knowledgeable in it, and I guess you could look at the Bible as being their armor. So when somebody tries to fire something at you that you have where it's in the Bible to try to stop what they're saying, of course, a lot of times it goes through one ear and out the other to them. But in verse number 12 it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked." And that just kind of goes back to, you know, people trying to throw it could be witchcraft, it could be pretty much anything that the Bible is against that they're going to throw at Christians. I mean, if you look today on the news, pretty much if you're a Christian, you're pretty much under fire from government and other countries. And, you know, if you look at where the United States said they're going to stand with Israel, well, then you got a lot of them up there that believe in a different religious. Well, they're firing at us, saying that, you know, the Christians are this and that, and we should be helping this other ones. And you know, I was watching the other day where our new speaker of the house got up and said that we're going to be bringing God back into the house, and he got down and prayed, and he had a lot of backlash, and a lot of people disliked him for it. And you know, there's a lot of them up there that don't, in not just in the White House, but all around, they don't even want God present in anything these days. And this is, I mean, if anybody watches, or you know, a lot of people try to stay away from the news, but this, looking at our country now, and I know back in, it's happened all through the years and days, and before I was born, there was all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, even in the Bible, the wickedness and stuff that happened, and I can't think I got it, it's on the tip of my tongue, I just can't spit them out, but you know, all the wickedness, and God destroyed it, the cities, and you know, so it's not just happened today, but in my time now, I'm seeing what is going on, and you know, the only way they're ever going to get this country straightened back up is through God. And but then it says in 15, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith we shall be able to quench. Oh, I darn read that one. 17, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all forbearance and supplication for all saints, and for me that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel. And, you know, what pretty much saying is, when somebody does come at you with something, you know, don't be afraid to speak about the Lord. Just, you know, I told it before, this little story, but I was over at the mall when I had bought Chelsea. I don't know if it was her wedding ring or engagement ring, but I was making a payment on it, and I had a guy come up to me and just all of a sudden just tell me that this country's doomed. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you mean? He was going on about everything. I said, well, God is the one that's going to put it back in place. I said, but, you know, we've all got to come together. And before I could even finish, he started laughing and said God wasn't real. And, of course, me and him kind of went back and forth. Well, it got to the point I had to get going, and he just kept on with me. Of course, when you talk about God and down God, you're talking about family to me. So if you talk about my parents, my wife, or brother, and anybody, I'm going to be protective over it. And I got protected that day about him talking about God, and you know, I didn't come at him like I should have and everything, but he caught me off guard, and I was brought off guard, but I should have been ready for any situation, and I pretty much failed that day on it. But you know, ever since then it bothered me, and I got put in a test, and now I try to be ready for anything that could be thrown at me, but there's still a lot of things some questions that maybe I don't understand, but I try to look for the answers from somebody that is also, you know, is close in the Bible. But does anybody have anything for me? appreciate that. You talking, I got to thinking of pastor. That pastor's another church that he works with Dad. Joe, a lot of people know him as Joe Bailey. He was preaching one day, and um, it really stuck with what he said. But a lot of times these days, you hear a lot of people say, "Well, the devil made me do it. The devil made me do it." And he said, "The devil don't make you do anything. The devil gives you, I guess you would say, a trap, and he might put some goodies in there, but that's your choice if you want to take the goodies out, and then you've failed knowing that it was wrong. But like he said, you know, you ain't made to do anything. Now, I got made to go out and mow the yard and stuff like that, but what I'm saying is there is things out in this world that people lay to you, and it's your choice. Once I became an adult, I had my choice. Now, if I was still living at home, I still had rules. But as I got older and got married and moved out, I still had a choice. But there's still times that I might do something, but my parents still correct me over. I might say, well, so-and-so done this, and I'm this. Well, they could correct me and say, well, you do what you want, but this is my opinion. I still get advice from them. And if I probably done something very bad, don't think that Dad or Mom probably still wouldn't whoop me. But I tried, like I said, I tried to obey my parents as I was growing up. So when I became an adult, I knew where to be, and I'm glad that me and my wife have a desire to be at church. And right now, I mean, what she's going through, and there's some days we might not get to be here, but we have a desire and a miss to be able to come. And if we were sitting there at home and like, man, we could get used to this, I love this, then you would lose that desire and everything like that. But I'm glad that we, when we miss, we're like, man, I wish we was at church, or I wish we could go tonight, or hey, but right now it's just kind of back and forth, and luckily we're kind of getting back in the part where she's starting to feel a little bit better until the next round. But I'm just glad as I was raised up, going back to some of these verses that I was raised, like I said, nowhere near perfect, but I was raised to try to respect, and I mean, some people I probably didn't, but if you made me mad, and but as I was just trying to say, just growing up there was things out in the world that I could have got myself into, but I chose not because of I was taught and what I was around as I was growing up, and Sunday schools and church and everything like that. But and going back to all this, if somebody has got out, me and Chelsea's been watching a show, and there's so many people, juveniles. There's so many adults that have got themselves in situations, maybe didn't have the best life growing up and stuff like that, and they get themselves caught in situations that they may be put in juvenile. As you're 18, you're a young adult, you could be put in jail, and people's like, well, there's no hope for them. There's no hope. Well, there is. So many people. You've heard of people that might murder or something like that that's in jail, and they have Christian people to go in there and try to teach them about God and stuff, and they could get saved in there. It always says, I've always been told growing up and taught and everything, no sin's greater than the other. It seems like in the earthly, you go out here and murder somebody or do something, and I lied to you, you might think, oh, that's way worse. But in God's eyes, no sin is greater than the other unless you do not believe and you turn him away. That's your worst sin, because if you don't accept him, we all know hell would be your home. And like I said, it's just thinking of these verses, as I was studying, the thankful that I had when I was, and the parents and grandparents that I had growing up to raise me, and there's people that I work with and stuff that raise their kids, and they seem like good kids, but if you never brought them to church and anything, they might. I'm not saying bad kids at all, but once they get out in this world and stuff, got a guy I work with right now, love him to death. He's a great guy, and but they do not go to church. And his son's very respectful. He's a great kid and everything. But going back to this, I had an old boss that he told me. He said, "I'm a nice person, so why would God send me to hell?" He said, "If I've done nothing wrong," and of course I had to explain that you have to come under conviction and know that you're lost to be saved. Well, he was like, "But why would God send me to hell for being nice?" And I said, "Well, God don't send you to hell. You will send yourself for not accepting it." And anyway, it looks like we ran out of time, and I'm going to stop there. And thank y'all for helping me in the prayers this morning.